Chapter 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is of course the unique shape of the Double Kamui. Istetha's intuition can be said to be very accurate. Although the Mangekyō Sharingan Double Kamui is not an imperial weapon, it is indeed the source of Bai Ye's ability. Bai Ye was somewhat embarrassed after being stared at by Istetha for a long time, but he still looked calm on the surface. Istetha was slightly disappointed that he did not catch any useful information from the other party's eyes. If Bai Ye's eyes had just dodged, Istetha would have been more certain that his eyes were imperial weapons. After a while, Bai Ye and Istetha fell directly to the bottom of the valley. Istetha believed in Bai Ye's ability, but did not believe what Bai Ye said. She was always on guard and could not be completely sure that the other party would not suddenly let go of her in mid-air and let her fall. After all, it was a stranger she had just met. If she didn't even have this little bit of vigilance, what kind of imperial general would she be? It was not until Bai Ye brought Istetha to the ground smoothly on the surface of a river that Istetha relaxed her guard a little. There is another river below, but are we floating on the water now? Istetha's tone was cold and pleasant. Yeah. Bai Ye responded lightly, still holding Istetha's wrist and walking to the shore together. Then he let go of Istetha's wrist and lifted the virtualization state. Sorry for being so presumptuous, it was just an emergency. At this time, he still said politely. Although it was just a touch of the wrist, the other party was a girl after all, and she might mind it. However, Istetha didn't care about this at all. She walked to the big rock on the side, stabbed it with the long sword in her hand, and found that it returned to normal. It is enough to show that although this long sword is not an imperial weapon, it is not an ordinary weapon. It can pierce such a hard rock, and the sword body has no damage. It can even be said that this long sword has been accompanying Istetha to fight until the last moment. It seems to be back to normal now. It was indeed your ability just now. Istetha looked back at Bai Ye. At this time, Bai Ye saw Istetha's full appearance more clearly. He had no intention to see it so carefully before. In addition to her beautiful face, her figure is also tall and proud. It is estimated that her height is about 1.7 meters. With the pair of high-heeled boots, she looks not much shorter than Bai Ye. This military uniform is not what ordinary soldiers can have. She also exudes a domineering and powerful aura, although Bai Ye is a little curious about whether the high-heeled boots will not hinder her in battle. But he did not ask. Even though he didn't know Istetha at all, he could feel that this woman in military uniform should not be simple. First of all, her temperament is not something that ordinary people can have. In Istetha's eyes, compared with Bai Ye's slightly immature handsome face and slender figure, it is the pair of blood eyes with a peculiar shape that makes her more concerned for the time being. I guess so. Bai Ye responded, and then sat down on another stone to rest. He had just used the hollow eye technique for a while, and it consumed a lot of his energy. After all, it was a double kamui, and there was nothing he could do about it. Obito relied on Hashirama's cells to use the power of a single kamui at will, and the consumption of a double kamui would be even more terrifying than a single kamui. Without Hashirama's cells, he would definitely not be able to handle it at the beginning. Sitting on the stone, he had time to study the system at this moment, and opened the system panel with a thought. Host, Bai Ye, age, 18, strength, 20, the average value of adult males is 10, agility, 20, the average value of adult males is 10, physique, 20, the average value of adult males is 10, system points, 0. System Mall LV1, Bai Ye's 3 attributes all reach 20, which is twice that of adult males. This is of course a novice benefit given to him by the system. Thanks to these 20 points of physique, the void just now did not drain his body directly, because his double divine power was modified by the system. He had no chakra in his body, and he could not use it without the modification. It was equivalent to consuming chakra to consuming cells in the body. The stronger the physique attribute, the stronger the activity of the cells in the body, and even has all-round regeneration ability. In addition to improving endurance, the so-called all-round regeneration ability means that the cells in the body, physical injuries, pupil power, etc. can all be automatically regenerated. So as long as they are not killed or blinded instantly, they can be regenerated in enough time. The strength attribute is simply the strength of the body, which basically needs no explanation. As for agility, it affects various speeds, such as movement speed, reaction speed, etc. response speed, sharp consciousness and other aspects. However, no matter what, system points are the most important. Only with points can you exchange various attributes in the system mall, and the way to get points seems to be to hunt dangerous species and defeat enemies. These are all told to him by the system, otherwise he would not even know what dangerous species are. The levels of dangerous species are divided from weak to strong, level 4, level 3, level 2, level 1, special and super. Level 4 is the weakest and super is the strongest. The stronger the dangerous species hunted, the more points you can get. At this time, Bai Ye sat here to rest, waiting for his body and pupil power to regenerate automatically. As for the tiger-shaped special dangerous species just now, it would definitely not be stupid enough to chase them and jump down together. If it really jumped down, it would be just what he wanted. At this height, even if it didn't die, it would be disabled, just right for him to harvest. It's getting dark, let's prepare to spend the night here tonight. At this time, Death spoke. When she was fighting against the special dangerous species before, her horse was also killed, and she couldn't get back to the imperial capital quickly. Death, who has many years of experience in hunting dangerous species in the wild, knows that it is not suitable to move at night. Many dangerous species are in the strongest state at night, and humans will be greatly restricted at night. What's more, she is still injured, so it's not bad to heal here first. Are you a soldier of the Empire? Bai Ye asked casually. He only knew that the story of Kill the Red Eyes took place in an empire, and this empire was not a good thing. That's all he knew about this world. Yes, to be precise, General, my name is Death. What about you? Death's tone was soft. Although she was always very cruel to the enemy, she was very friendly and approachable to her subordinates and civilians in her country. Bai Ye had just saved her, so her attitude would naturally not be bad. Add a picture of Death. My name is Bai Ye. While answering, Bai Ye became more vigilant towards Death in front of him. Because the empire was not a good thing in his impression, it was hard to say whether the generals of the empire were normal people. He, who was stable in character, would consider it more. Bai Ye, I remember it. On the other hand, Death had a good first impression of Bai Ye. Hearing the name Bai Ye, she should be from the empire rather than a foreign nation. Not knowing her as a general meant that she was born in the border of the empire rather than the imperial capital like her. After all, she was quite famous in the imperial capital. Encountering a super dangerous species in such a wilderness, it was likely that he was here to hunt dangerous species, which meant that he was very courageous, and he had just saved her. Chapter 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, the river suddenly surged, and the river surface was not as calm as before, and something was obviously wrong. Bai Ye suspected that another dangerous species was about to appear. Oh, just in time. Death seemed to have confirmed the existence of the dangerous species, and immediately pulled out the long sword from the rock, her silver blue hair fluttering, and a strong fighting spirit burst out of her body. The next moment, a huge fish-shaped dangerous species jumped out of the water, with a body length of at least 4 or 5 meters, a very large head, and a fish mouth full of densely packed sharp teeth biting towards Death who was closest to it. Level 3 dangerous species. Death smiled coldly, with a hint of confidence and contempt in her smile. She rushed forward directly, and her light and agile figure jumped several meters high at will, and the long sword in her hand pierced into the fish mouth, and then pierced through the top of the fish-shaped dangerous species' head. This blow was almost fatal. Death's movements were very fast. After retracting her long sword, she slashed several times in a row, and in a flash, she cut the fish-shaped dangerous species into several large pieces. She did this not for unnecessary reasons, but to make it easier to use the fish meat to make dinner later. If it were an ordinary person, they would not be able to see Death's movements with their naked eyes, but Bai Ye was certainly not an ordinary person. Death's movement seemed to slow down a lot in his Mangekyō Sharingan. He couldn't help but think that this Death was indeed not simple, and inexplicably gave him a sense of danger. The dinner later is just right, but there are really many dangerous species here. Death sighed slightly, because there were several more dangerous species surrounding them. It seemed that there were many dangerous species living here. Fortunately, they were not special dangerous species, so there was no pressure to deal with them. Even without the imperial weapon, Estetha's own physical skills and physical fitness were very strong, but at this time, Bai Ye also started to act. He pulled out a tooth of the fish-shaped dangerous species just now. As expected of a dangerous species, a single tooth is about 1 meter long and looks particularly hard and sharp. "What are you doing?" Seeing this, Estetha next to him asked immediately. "Using its teeth as a weapon." Bai Ye replied, "He can't rely too much on the double God's eye technique now, although the offensive ability of the left eye's God's power can easily kill one of the dangerous species in front of him. He just used hypomorphism once. If he uses the eye technique again without resting for a long time, his body may not be able to bear it, and he is also on guard against his death, thinking it is best not to show weakness in front of this dangerous woman. Besides, the basic ability of the Mangekyō Sharingan is already very strong. Not to mention the vision, the most important thing is the insight. Any action of the enemy will be much slower in his eyes. In fact, the principle is to predict the enemy's actions. For example, as soon as the opponent raises his hand, he can deduce the trajectory of the opponent's next action, so that those actions seem to slow down in his eyes. For example, the ability to copy and the ability to see through illusions. The principle is also based on this insight. These basic abilities are already buggy enough. Bai Ye plans to rely on physical skills like Estetha first, but it may not be impossible to fight against dangerous species. Now he is just testing his own strength. "So your imperial equipment is not offensive?" Estetha said with a little surprise. It seems that she has determined that the source of Bai Ye's ability is imperial equipment. At the same time, she also appreciates this young man who seems to be younger than herself. Even if he has no weapons, he will use the teeth of fish-shaped dangerous species as weapons to fight on the spot. He is not afraid of so many dangerous species, but is particularly calm. Bai Ye, who doesn't know what imperial equipment is, did not respond. He held the fish teeth in his hand and killed the dangerous species with an expressionless face. Hunting dangerous species can earn him system points, which is the most fundamental reason for him to take action. Estetha was not in a hurry to take action, because she wanted to see what Bai Ye's ability was without using the imperial weapon. Bai Ye's priority target was the relatively small plant-shaped dangerous species, a green flower with a terrifying appearance, taller than him, with a big mouth that could swallow him whole. Let's call it the piranha plant. At this moment, the head of the piranha plant suddenly rushed towards him. Since the flower stalk can be freely extended, it can even extend several meters. Ordinary people who don't understand the characteristics of the piranha plant can easily be caught off guard and eventually become the food of the piranha plant. However, Bai Ye, with his Mangekyō Sharingan, realized what would happen next. The moment the piranha plant just started to move forward, he jumped up. The piranha plant missed, and then his toes landed on the head of the piranha plant, and he cut off the flower stalk of the piranha plant with the fish teeth in his hand. The flower stalk seemed to be the most fragile when it was stretched to this extreme length, because it was naturally thinner when it was stretched, and the flower stalk, which was only as thick as an arm, was easily cut off by the fish teeth. Bang! The huge head of the piranha plant fell to the ground with a bang, and the broken end of the flower stalk gushed blood like a fountain. Bai Ye dodged to the side and perfectly avoided the blood from splashing on himself. Ding! The host hunted a level 4 dangerous species and received a reward, 1 system point. Bai Ye easily hunted the first dangerous species, but he had no intention of resting at all, because another dangerous species would attack him soon. He kicked the dead piranha plant hard and flipped backwards. He could see 2 long and sharp sickle-like mantis claws, which cut towards the position where he was standing like scissors. If an ordinary person did not avoid it in time, he would have been cut in half. It's really a bit dangerous. Bai Ye sighed slightly in his heart. Fortunately, his golden finger is double divine power, so he can deal with it calmly even if he only relies on basic abilities. With the fish teeth, he directly beheaded the mantis-shaped dangerous species. As the head of the mantis dangerous species rolled to the ground, Bai Ye gained points again. Ding! The host hunted a level 4 dangerous species and received a reward, 1 system point. But there were some cracks on the fish teeth, and it was estimated that it would break after a few more uses. After all, the epidermis of these dangerous species is quite thick. He then took off the front claws of the mantis dangerous species and continued to hunt the rest of the dangerous species. Estetha, who was watching the battle, felt that Bai Ye was a good talent, and he also had an imperial weapon, so he had the potential to become a general-level figure. P.S. Starting tomorrow, I will try to update steadily at 12 noon, 6 p.m., and 10 p.m., and continue to update 3 times a day until I reach 100,000 words. Chapter 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding! The host hunted a level 4 dangerous species and received a reward, 1 system point. Ding! The host hunted a level 3 dangerous species and received a reward, 3 system points. Soon, Bai Ye dealt with the remaining dangerous species. These are all level 4 and level 3 dangerous species. They are very dangerous and terrifying monsters for ordinary people in the Empire, which is why they are called dangerous species. However, for Bai Ye, hunting level 4 and level 3 dangerous species is more than enough. This is just the initial panel when he did not use the dual divine pupil technique. His ability can be continuously strengthened. System points, 10. After this battle, Bai Ye gained 10 system points. He immediately opened the system mall LV1. Product, strength *1. Price, system points *1. Product, agility *1. Price, system points *1. Product, constitution *1. Price, system points *1. Bai Ye thought for a moment and made plans to allocate the only 10 system points. Ding! The host exchanged constitution *6, deducted system points *6. Ding! The host exchanged strength *2, deducted system points *2. Ding! The host exchanged agility *2, deducted system points *2. The constitution attribute is definitely the top priority at the moment. It is too important for Bai Ye, and determines whether he can use the double divine power pupil technique normally, but it does not mean that strength and agility are useless. These two attributes have a great impact on the strength of physical skills. Physical skills are the lower limit of Bai Ye's strength, and the double Kamui technique is his upper limit. Before being able to use the double Kamui technique at will, physical skills are still very important. However, how easy is it to use the double Kamui technique at will? For example, Obito, who has Hashirama's cells, can use the single Kamui at will, and Kakashi, who inherited Obito's 6 paths power, has obtained a 1-minute double Kamui experience card, which means that his physique attribute must be at least stronger than the strength of Hashirama's cells, so that he can use the double Kamui technique at will, and it is only possible. Just then, Bai Ye heard a round of applause. It was Death who was applauding him. Wonderful performance, your strength is very good. Thank you. Bai Ye said modestly, because he had seen before that Death's physical skills were better than his. After all, he is a general of the empire, and is undoubtedly one of the strongest people in this empire. If you need money, cut off the valuable parts of those dangerous species. If not, prepare for dinner. After saying that, Death turned around and walked towards the fish-shaped dangerous species that had been dismembered by her. Bai Ye fell into a brief silence, because he had no idea where the valuable parts of those dangerous species were. He had just crossed over and was penniless, so it was necessary to get some money. I'd better ask the other party for advice later. At this time, Death had already started to work, cutting some branches into the shape of bamboo sticks, and then cutting a large piece of fish meat into suitable sizes, and then stringing them up one by one with bamboo sticks. It was obvious that she was going to make grilled fish meat. Bai Ye originally wanted to come over to help, but found that Death's movements were too agile, and it seemed that there was nothing for him to do. At this time, Death also said, "Just sit next to me. You just saved my life, and now this is a small return." However, Bai Ye shook his head slightly and said very honestly, "No, I accidentally woke up that special dangerous species, which put you in danger." In his opinion, Death did not owe him a favor, he just solved the incident caused by himself. One thing is one thing, no matter what, you did save me. Death said. Okay. Bai Ye had to say. Soon, Death started to make a fire and roast the fish. Her movements were very skillful throughout the process, as if she had done this thousands of times. Then Bai Ye and Death sat by the fire separately, waiting for the fish to be roasted. Here. Death handed one of the roasted fish to Bai Ye first. Thank you. Bai Ye took the fish meat and subconsciously observed the fish meat with the insight of his Mangekyō Sharingan to see if there was anything wrong with it before he took a bite. Although this is the meat of a dangerous species, it is sweeter than the ordinary fish that Bai Ye had eaten before crossing over, because in this world, all kinds of dangerous species can be made into delicious dishes. How does it taste? Is Death asked. It's delicious. Bai Ye commented seriously. Is Death nodded slightly, seeming satisfied with his work. Where are you from? Are you here to hunt dangerous species? At this time, Is Death suddenly asked. Faced with this sudden question, Bai Ye reacted quickly and forged an identity for himself. I am from a small village in the south of the empire, but it was destroyed by a special dangerous species not long ago. As the only survivor, I have to wander out. Really? Is Death had a blank expression on his face, and there was no sympathy in his tone. After all, we are all weak, and there is nothing we can do. Only the strong can survive. Is Death's words and the coldness in his tone made Bai Ye's heart tremble slightly. Although the small village and the super dangerous species were all fabricated by him, Is Death's reaction after hearing it was really amazing. Is it the ultimate jungle mentality? Sure enough, this woman is very dangerous. Bai Ye had already labeled Is Death as very beautiful but also very dangerous in his heart, but he did not show it. How about this? You come back to the imperial capital with me. I can make you my subordinate directly, which is much faster than the promotion speed of ordinary people who sign up to join the army. To be precise, you will directly jump to a general and become a person above 10,000 people, and it is better than wandering outside. Is Death put his right hand on his chest and invited Bai Ye directly. Bai Ye was silent for a moment, then replied, I plan to go to the imperial capital, but I don't like being restricted by others. No, you just belong to the army led by me. I will give you as much freedom as possible. Even I usually have to go out to fight against foreign races or dangerous species. You should be able to accept this level, right? Is Death said. Okay. Bai Ye accepted Is Death's invitation, because he didn't know much about this world. Even if Is Death didn't invite him, he would choose to go to the most important stage in this world, that is, the imperial capital, then slowly understand what this world is like. Chapter 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Of course, Bai Ye did not completely trust Is Death. Once the label of very dangerous is attached, it is not easy to remove it, but Bai Ye has his own trump card, which is the double divine power. Apart from other things, there is absolutely no problem in saving his life, so he is not afraid of Is Death. Very good, then stay here tonight, and we will return to the imperial capital tomorrow morning. Is Death said. Since you are a general of the empire, why do you appear in such a place alone? Bai Ye asked. I originally came here with a group of soldiers to attack the special dangerous species, but the intelligence was wrong. The strength of the special dangerous species was beyond expectations, and some first and second level dangerous species were attracted during the battle. In the end, the target was successfully attacked, but I was the only one left alive. Is Death briefly recounted the course of events. I see. Sorry, I shouldn't ask this question. Bai Ye apologized. It's nothing. It's a pity, but they died there because they were too weak. Is Death didn't care. It was because her idea of the survival of the fittest was deeply rooted that she looked down on the lives of the soldiers. Bai Ye remained silent. He didn't intend to argue with Is Death on this topic. I'm almost full. Can you teach me where the valuable parts of those dangerous species are? Bai Ye immediately changed the subject. Of course, but you don't understand these, right? Is Death was a little surprised. She originally thought that Bai Ye was also a member of a tribe that hunted dangerous species for a living. After all, Bai Ye's skills were very good before. Bai Ye shook his head and said, before the village was destroyed, I had little contact with dangerous species, so I don't have any relevant common sense. Well, let me teach you. As he said that, Is Death stood up and walked towards the bodies of the dangerous species that Bai Ye had just hunted, and pulled out the long sword from the scabbard at his waist. First, this piranha plant, its valuable part is the golden part in the stamen, which has a high pharmaceutical value. Is Death demonstrated in person, picking out the golden stamen of the piranha plant with a long sword and handing it to Bai Ye. as a general, she had a high salary and various rewards, so naturally she was not as short of money as Bai Ye. Next, Isdeth explained to Bai Ye the valuable parts of these dangerous species one by one, and demonstrated in person. Bai Ye suddenly felt that Isdeth had a deep understanding of this aspect. He couldn't help but ask, "You know a lot about this. You seemed very skilled when you grilled fish just now. Did you often hunt dangerous species in the wild before?" "Because I was born in the Barut's tribe. We are a tribe that specializes in hunting dangerous species. We have been doing these things since we were very young," Isdeth explained, "but later our Barut's tribe was exterminated by the northern foreign race. Just like you, I was the only one who survived. After I hunted all the dangerous species in that area, I went to the imperial capital to join the army because I was bored." Isdeth's tone was very flat throughout the whole process, as if she was talking about a trivial matter, as if the extermination of the tribe was not worth her heart. Bai Ye felt that Isdeth was a little scary, but also a little sympathetic. Perhaps it was the experience of being exterminated that made Isdeth think that the strong prey on the weak, but because of this mindset, it is estimated that he does not need sympathy, but will find his sympathy strange. Is that so? So Bai Ye didn't know what to say for a moment. These things can be exchanged for money when we get to the imperial capital, but you don't have to worry about the money. You will have a very high salary in the future. At this time, Isdeth continued, as for the remaining corpses of those dangerous species, they are naturally useless. The sky gradually darkened. Bai Ye and Isdeth did not plan to act at night, although Bai Ye's Mangekyō Sharingan can see everything clearly at night. The consumption caused by his previous use of hollow was too great, so it would be better to rest tonight. Since Isdeth had nothing but weapons on her body, she and Bai Ye prepared to fall asleep directly on the spot. However, it was still early at this time, and they had nothing to do, so they started chatting. "How old are you? You look very young." At this time, Isdeth asked Bai Ye's age. 18 years old, aren't you also very young? Bai Ye replied. He was also happy to chat with Isdeth. Anyway, there is nothing to do at night, so chatting about various things is also good. It should be possible to extract some useful information from Isdeth's words, and it is also very natural, and it does not seem that he has any obvious purpose. "Then it seems that you are 2 years younger than me," Isdeth said. 20 years old, you have become a general at such a young age, it's amazing. Bai Ye immediately praised. "In fact, there are generals who are about the same age as me. She is only 4 or 5 years older than me." The female general mentioned by Isdeth is actually Nageshitan. At this time, Nageshitan has not yet rebelled. She is still Isdeth's colleague and often goes out to fight with Isdeth. Of course, Bai Ye does not even know Isdeth, let alone Nageshitan. "And you also have the potential to become a general. I hope you can take becoming a general as your future goal," Isdeth continued. "Me? You can try." Bai Ye did not say it too decisively. At present, he has no clear position, because he does not know enough about this world, so he can only take one step at a time. Although Isdeth in front of him is a very dangerous woman, at least she has no hostility towards him, so it is still worth approaching. It was late at night. When it was time to go to bed, Bai Ye and Isdeth just lay on the ground and slept. Bai Ye's physical fitness is much stronger than that of ordinary people, not to mention Isdeth, who can easily adapt to this environment. However, the quality of sleep is average. After all, they have to be vigilant at any time to see if there will be any dangerous species suddenly attacking them. Not only the dangerous species, Bai Ye is also wary of Isdeth. Once there is any movement, he will wake up immediately. Fortunately, nothing happened overnight. It was not until the early morning of the next day that a dangerous species suddenly appeared and disturbed them. Isdeth took the lead and solved this level 2 dangerous species with a few swords. "It's time to set off at dawn." Isdeth shook off the blood on the sword and said to Bai Ye beside him. "Yes." Bai Ye nodded slightly. Then, the two of them set off together, heading for the imperial capital that had prospered for thousands of years. Chapter 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Before setting off, Isdeth put on her military cap. Isdeth's military cap is very similar to the British Royal Navy's military cap, which adds a touch of charm to her. Bai Ye also thinks that this military cap is very suitable for Esdeath. We are currently in the border area in the south of the empire, which is far away from the imperial capital. If we rely solely on walking, it will waste too much time. Let's go to the nearest city of Jisai to get 2 horses. Esdeath said. Bai Ye nodded. On the way to Jisai, Bai Ye and Esdeath encountered some dangerous species one after another. In addition to the imperial capital and various cities in the empire, dangerous species may be encountered anywhere. The role of the city wall is not only to resist rebels, foreign enemies and foreign ethnic groups, but also to resist various dangerous species. Bai Ye and Esdeath work together to kill those dangerous species. Ding. The host hunted a level 4 dangerous species and received a reward, 1 system point. Ding. The host hunted a level 3 dangerous species and received a reward, 3 system points. Because Esdeath was too strong, Bai Ye only grabbed 2 dangerous species, and the rest were killed by Esdeath in seconds. I killed 10 dangerous species, you killed 2, I won. Esdeath's high boots crushed the head of the last dangerous species. At this time, a tall city wall could be seen not far ahead, which should be Jisai City. Yes, yes, you are indeed very strong. Bai Ye said undeniably, but then again, he didn't say he wanted to compete with Esdeath. Soon, the two came to the gate of Jisai City. The guards at the gate wanted to check their identities. Esdeath was a general who had just taken office not long ago. He was quite popular in the imperial capital, but he was not so famous in a remote place like Jisai City. Moreover, in this world similar to the ancient feudal dynasty, information dissemination was also inconvenient. At least you have to have seen Esdeath's portrait to recognize her. Hey! Where are you two from? What's your name? The city gate guard immediately questioned Bai Ye and Esdeath in a very impolite tone. Before Bai Ye could speak, Esdeath immediately grabbed the guard's hair with one hand and pressed the guard to the ground with terrifying force. Before the guard could react to what happened, his nose was directly broken by Esdeath's high boots. The guard screamed immediately. The other guards were stunned for a moment. They didn't expect that someone would dare to cause trouble here. Who is that woman? She looks beautiful and cruel, and she actually attacked the guards here. I want to say that she did a great job. Those guys always rely on others for power. Last time, someone was beaten half to death for just protesting, and was even thrown out to be fed to dangerous species. I think it's a pity for such a beautiful woman. That scumbag governor will definitely not let her go, but we should keep our voices down. If we are heard, we will be finished. When Esdeath suddenly took action, many people entering and leaving the city gate were attracted to her attention, and they couldn't help but talk about it. At this time, Bai Ye found that he didn't seem to need to do anything, so he stood aside and watched the show calmly. In a blink of an eye, Bai Ye and Esdeath were surrounded by all the city gate guards. However, Bai Ye and Esdeath were calm and not panicked at all. Esdeath was because of her absolute strength. Bai Ye did it because of his strength and because he knew Esdeath's true identity. Don't you have anything to prove your general status? At this time, Bai Ye couldn't help but whisper to Esdeath. Yes, but I never bring that kind of thing when I go out to fight. Esdeath said casually in a cold tone. Bai Ye was a little speechless. Then what should we do now? If it doesn't work, just kill them all. Esdeath said coldly. A dangerous smile appeared on her beautiful face, which looked a little sick and hideous. Bai Ye was speechless for a while. This city of Jisai is located in the territory of the empire, and it should also be a city belonging to the empire. These guards are at least Esdeath's own people, but they are so decisive to kill them all. He didn't think it was bad to kill so decisively, but he was a little surprised that Esdeath could kill his own people immediately. In this world where the strong prey on the weak, decisive killing is indeed necessary, but Esdeath's concept of the survival of the fittest is a bit too extreme. Wait. She seems to be Esdeath general. Just when Esdeath drew the sword from her waist and prepared to kill, a guard finally recognized Esdeath. He had seen Esdeath's portrait by chance. Esdeath's portrait had just been sent to Jisai City in the past 2 days. It was currently hanging in the governor's mansion and had not yet spread. General Esdeath. Is it true? The youngest general in the imperial capital? Absolutely true. Then aren't we finished? How dare you draw your sword against the general? Stop talking nonsense. Let's kowtow and beg for mercy. There is still a glimmer of hope. All the guards were frightened and knelt on the ground and kowtowed. They were not only the beneficiaries of this corrupt empire, but also knew the horror of this empire. The fate of offending a general-level figure was very miserable. However, as death was still relatively lenient to her own people, she ignored these guys and walked straight into Jisai City through the city gate without even looking at them. Bai Ye walked with them. After his death and Bai Ye entered, the guards dared to stop kowtowing and raise their heads. Fortunately, General Death didn't bother with us. By the way, who is that young man? Is he General Death's deputy general? No, I think he is a male lover, and he is not wearing a regular military uniform. Don't worry about it. I almost died just now and I still have the mood to talk about this. Let's quickly notify the governor. After entering Jisai City, Death went to the governor's mansion and asked for 2 good horses. The governor had of course learned from the city gate guards that General Death had arrived. General Death is here, do you only need 2 horses? I have a lot of other good things here. If General Death likes anything, you can take it at will. The governor of Jisai City was a fat middle-aged man, and he was flattering when he saw Death. No need. Death said coldly, and threw a bag of coins to the governor. She never accepted bribes, and didn't want to owe favors to such people. Okay. The governor did not dare to say anything more and immediately sent someone to bring 2 top-quality horses. Bai Ye and Death rode on their horses and continued on their way. However, not long after they set off, on the streets of Jisai City, that they saw a yellow-haired young man in luxurious clothes blatantly assaulting a young woman and her young daughter, and a seriously injured and unconscious man lying next to them. Chapter 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dad. She's still a child. Who will save us? That the young woman cried heartbreakingly. The little girl also cried out to the seriously injured and dying man with tears in her eyes. Obviously, this man is the husband of the young woman and the father of the little girl. Sykes has started again. This guy is really a bastard who does all kinds of evil. He is often seen doing such crazy things. He is the son of the governor. He is used to being arrogant and domineering. No one can control him at all. Alas, this family is basically hopeless after being targeted. The husband fainting may be a relief. At least he won't witness what happens next. Others only dared to talk quietly, and even dared not stay for too long. What happened next would be very horrible, and they couldn't bear to continue watching here. At this time, the dress of the young woman had been torn by the governor's son, Sykes, and the little daughter was caught by the guards next to her. It is estimated that she will be killed soon. No matter how much the mother and daughter cried, no one came to save them. Because no one had the ability or courage to save them. The governor had the most powerful force in the entire city of Jisai, and the governor's son and his guards were also very powerful and always domineering. In this case, whoever goes up will die. And once they offend the governor's power, their families will also be retaliated. No matter what, they dare not joke about the safety of themselves and their families. When they are retaliated, it is good to be killed with a knife. Men will be abused and women will be violated. However, Death turned a blind eye to it. But Bai Ye couldn't stand it anymore. He drove the horse directly to that side. Who is it? Stop. The guards over there immediately scolded Bai Ye. Bai Ye not only did not slow down, but even faster. Sykes, who was about to tear the clothes off the young woman, had to avoid the charging horse. His brows were furrowed, and he looked at the young man with bloodshot eyes riding on the horse with an unhappy face. At this time, Bai Ye stopped in front of the young woman, but the little girl was still caught by the guards. You want to go against me, young master? Sykes asked gloomily. Bai Ye didn't want to talk nonsense with such a scum, and got off the horse expressionlessly. Sykes's face suddenly showed a fierce look, his eyes were full of murderous intent, and he ordered his guards, cut him for me. Those guards immediately showed their weapons, all kinds of knives, swords, axes. Is there really anyone who dares to stand up and help the mother and daughter? This young man is really brave. But his end is miserable. Not only can he not change the fate of the mother and daughter, he will also be killed. The ordinary people around felt pity for Bai Ye. As the guards approached with stern faces, Bai Ye took the initiative to attack and rushed towards one of the guards holding a sword. So fast, that the guard holding a sword was immediately shocked by Bai Ye's speed. He hurriedly chopped at Bai Ye with a panicked look. However, his sword-swinging speed was too slow in Bai Ye's eyes, and Bai Ye easily avoided the attack, a full-strength knee strike. It hit the abdomen of the guard holding a sword. Crack! That the guard holding a sword immediately retched in pain, his facial features twisted in pain, and his body instantly lost the ability to fight. Bai Ye took this opportunity to snatch the sword from the guard's hand and cut his throat with one sword. The other guards were shocked, realizing that the strength of this young man was not simple, and did not dare to act rashly. Looking at this scene, Esteth, who was not far away, looked a little surprised, as if she did not expect Bai Ye to take action for these civilians. A bunch of useless trash. That at this time, Sykes cursed at the guards and walked towards Bai Ye while cursing. It seems that you are capable, let's see if you can satisfy this young master. That his face became ferocious, and he liked the feeling of killing others. A dark green sledgehammer appeared in his hand. The fineness of the workmanship alone was not comparable to ordinary weapons. Bai Ye immediately realized that the sledgehammer in the other party's hand was not ordinary. The next moment, Sykes suddenly burst out with amazing speed, attacking Bai Ye like a ghost, and the sledgehammer in his hand swung horizontally directly at Bai Ye's forehead. Fortunately, Bai Ye had the Mangekyō Sharingan, and he could fully react to the opponent's speed. He leaned back to avoid the horizontal hammer and counterattacked at the same time. Sykes immediately realized that his abdomen was scratched and felt a pain. He was surprised that the opponent's reaction speed was so fast. No, however, this little pain had no effect on him, but angered him. Damn it! I'm going to smash you into pulp, Sykes roared, and the sledgehammer in his hand suddenly became more than 10 times larger, and the pressure on Sykes was naturally more than 10 times, and the blood vessels in his arms had burst. But with a crazy look on his face, he just wanted to smash Bai Ye into pulp, and didn't care about the injury on his arm at all. Facing this huge hammer with a huge killing area, Bai Ye could react, but his movement speed was not enough to perfectly dodge out of the killing range of the hammer. After judging this problem, he decisively used virtualization. Bang! The giant hammer smashed down violently, causing a huge movement, and the ground shook. The ground that was hit had sunk, which was enough to show how terrible the lethality of this hammer was. Ha 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 ha. Sykes thought he had smashed the kid into pulp, and he laughed crazily. But the next moment, his laughter stopped abruptly, because the sword in Bai Ye's hand directly pierced through Sykes' throat, making it difficult for Sykes to make a sound. Sykes looked at Bai Ye, who was unharmed, with horror, his eyes full of disbelief. He couldn't believe that the other party was completely fine. What on earth was going on? But he never had a chance to solve the puzzle again. Bai Ye stepped on his chest and stepped on him to the ground, and pierced his heart with a sword without mercy. Sykes struggled on the ground for a while with a face full of fear, and then died. Ding! The host killed a ministerial tool envoy and received a reward, 10 system points. The so-called ministerial tools are the emperor of the empire 500 years ago who wanted to imitate more imperial tools, but the imitation failed, and the effect was far inferior to the original 48 imperial tools. These failed products were nicknamed ministerial tools. However, even if they are failed products, they are also dimensionality reduction compared to ordinary weapons, but they are not as good as imperial tools. Just now, the hammer suddenly enlarged more than 10 times, which was the unique ability of this vassal. At this time, Estetha's eyes flickered, and she seemed to be thinking about something. She just saw Bai Ye take the hammer without dodging, but was unharmed. She even saw Bai Ye penetrate the hammer like a ghost and give Sykes a fatal blow. Bai Ye's imperial weapon is really powerful. Chapter 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Moreover, Bai Ye's imperial equipment seemed to work on other people as well. Esteth recalled the things that happened when she first met Bai Ye. At that time, Bai Ye and Esteth were both given the void effect. Sykes was killed. Who is that young man? Is he an imperial equipment user? Sykes's sledgehammer is a very powerful subordinate equipment. That young man was able to defeat the subordinate equipment user so easily. Even if he is not a real imperial equipment user, he has the strength to compete with the imperial equipment user. It's totally what he deserves. That scum deserves death. He is always domineering, but today he finally met a tough guy. The ordinary people around were very surprised that Sykes would die at the hands of that young man. At the same time, they all cheered, but they didn't dare to be too loud, fearing that they would be retaliated against later. After killing Sykes, Bai Ye looked at the guards with a cold look. Those guards were also Sykes' accomplices. They wanted to chop him just now, so they naturally couldn't let him go. He killed 2 guards who were still in shock, and the rest were so scared that they dropped their weapons and fled in a hurry. However, Bai Ye would not give them a chance to escape, and he chased and killed the remaining guards one by one. These guards were panicking and did not know how to flee separately, otherwise it would not be so easy to catch up with them with Bai Ye's speed, which was more than twice that of ordinary people. His death had almost no reaction to Bai Ye killing the son of the governor, Sykes, and his accompanying guards. She could not blame Bai Ye for killing these guys casually, because in her mind, there was nothing to say about the weak being killed by the strong, which was the law of survival in this world. Then, Bai Ye walked towards the young woman and the little girl and said to them, "It's okay now, you should take him to heal his wounds quickly, he should not die yet, this bag of coins is for you." The he Bai Ye mentioned refers to the man who was unconscious with wounds all over his body. At a glance, it is obvious that he is the husband of the young woman. As for the bag of coins, Bai Ye had just picked it out from one of the guards with a sword. Now he didn't need this little money, so he left it to this family that was almost broken apart for treatment. "Thank you. Thank you very much." Even though she had sorted out her clothes, the young woman still looked a little messy. Sykes almost tore her clothes just now, but she didn't care about the mess on her body at this moment, but thanked the lifesaver in front of her again and again. The little girl also learned to do the same as her mother. Bai Ye's face suddenly showed a relieved smile, and this smile of true feelings was very natural and pure. Then, the young woman and the little girl helped the seriously injured man away together. At this time, Bai Ye was about to ride on the horse, and found that his death suddenly walked towards him with some imposing manner. His eyes suddenly became more solemn. So far, he has not relaxed his vigilance against his death. He suspected that he had just acted on his own and even killed so many people, which caused his death as dissatisfaction, especially among the people he killed was the son of the governor. After all, he was a general of the empire. It was normal for him to be more inclined to the governor of Jisai City than to a stranger he had just met. The governor of a city was considered a high-ranking official in the empire. Bai Ye was mentally prepared for a big fight with his death. However, when his death walked in front of him, he did not feel any fighting spirit from his death. At this moment, his death suddenly raised his right hand, and Bai Ye instantly saw through the trajectory of his death's movements and found that he was going to lift his chin with his hand. Faced with this non-hostile move, Bai Ye did not waste his cells and pupil power to use void, but took a half-step back. But his death immediately approached and gently pinched Bai Ye's chin with his thumb and index finger. Bai Ye was immediately puzzled when his death gently lifted his chin. "What are you doing?" He thought the other party was here to cause trouble for him, but it turned out that they were here to tease him. He couldn't understand the current situation. Now, passers-by from all directions were even more excited. Is this teasing a good boy in broad daylight? But he is so powerful, and he was teased by a girl. Who is that beauty? Look at the dress, it is clearly a military uniform, and it's not the common one. Could it be an officer of the empire? It's probably just a couple flirting. If that ice beauty is really an officer, it's no wonder that the young man dared to attack the son of the governor. Feeling the strange looks from all around, Bai Ye, who had been feeling fine, felt a little embarrassed. Smile again. His death's tone sounded a little overbearing, with a hint of not being able to be refused. What? Bai Ye still didn't react to what his death wanted to do. I want to see your more sincere smile, and I feel that your smile just now touched my heartstrings a little. His death said bluntly, the very natural smile that appeared on Bai Ye's face when he faced the mother and daughter just now immediately gave his death an indescribable subtle feeling. She didn't quite understand why. after all, Esteth at this time had never thought about love in her mind, so naturally she didn't know what this subtle touch meant. Now she just inexplicably wanted to see Bai Ye's more sincere smile, not a faint smile. Smile? Hearing this, Bai Ye was even more confused. Did he just smile? It seemed like he subconsciously showed a relieved smile. But Esteth asked him to smile deliberately, and he couldn't do it. He was not the kind of person who loved to smile, and he might only smile subconsciously occasionally, and it would be a bit strange to put a smile on the face of a Mangekyō Sharingan holder like him. I'm afraid he would become like the 4 laughing heroes of the Uchiha clan, for laughing heroes. Of course, he just felt that he was not suitable. Who knows the actual situation? It was just that he occasionally showed his true feelings subconsciously. He had never seen what he looked like when he smiled. This is a bit embarrassing for me. Bai Ye said a little embarrassedly. Really? Are you embarrassed because there are so many people here? Esteth nodded slightly and murmured to herself. Before Bai Ye could explain, she had already determined the reason why Bai Ye felt embarrassed. Then Esteth said to Bai Ye, "Then don't worry, when you return to the imperial capital, you won't be shy in my room." No, Bai Ye was about to explain, but Esteth didn't give him the chance. She said, "But it seems that there is a little trouble now." Bai Ye turned his head and saw a large number of guards from the governor's mansion appearing from all directions. It was probably because of the death of the governor's son, Sykes. Chapter 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When a group of guards from the prefect's mansion surrounded the place, Prefect Seville also rushed over as soon as possible. However, they didn't know who killed Sykes yet, and now they had to find the murderer. Sykes. Prefect Seville saw his son's body, and immediately ran to the body and cried out in grief. Who killed my son? At this time, Seville's eyes were full of bloodshot, and his angry look was very scary. The people around didn't dare to move, for fear of being suspected, and didn't dare to look at Seville. They were all terrified. After all, Seville was a madman who was much more terrible than his son Sykes. Who saw the murderer? If you dare to cover up the murderer, none of you will live. Obviously, Seville wanted to use the most brutal means to force the murderer out. That is, all the people in the nearby area were arrested and tortured, and people who witnessed the scene could always be caught. Many people were frightened and turned pale, because they had just seen with their own eyes who killed Sykes, but in their opinion, the young man did a good thing, and they did not want Bai Ye to be retaliated, but the governor would start with them. They were just ordinary people, and they must be very afraid of torture, which made them very entangled for a while. It is estimated that soon someone will not be able to bear the psychological pressure and reveal Bai Ye. However, Bai Ye will not escape. He immediately took the initiative to stand up. It's me. What? It's you. Severe's face suddenly showed disbelief. He thought Bai Ye was an accomplice of General Esteth, and he had never doubted Bai Ye until just now, but he never expected that it was Bai Ye who killed his son. General Esteth. That kid is your subordinate. You have to give me an explanation today. The angry Seville couldn't help but ask Esteth for the crime, but he still had some reason to keep the respectful title for Esteth. Among the many positions in the empire, the governor is one level lower than the general, so Seville doesn't care too much about Esteth's face. In the face of the revenge of his son's murder, even if the other party is General Esteth's subordinate, he will still go to war to punish him. Esteth did not respond, but walked straight to Seville. The faint smile on the corner of his mouth contained a hint of danger. However, only Bai Ye noticed this in the whole audience, and everyone except him, including the governor Seville, was unaware of it, but he certainly would not stop Esteth or remind Seville. He was a little curious about what Esteth would do to Seville. Seville thought that General Esteth came to discuss this matter with him, and he had already begun to consider how to deal with the young man who killed his son. Beheading was too easy for that kid. At least he had to be tortured to death by all kinds of harsh means, and he could barely get rid of his hatred. At this time, Esteth had already walked in front of Seville. Seville felt more and more that this General Esteth was really young and beautiful. Whether it was her appearance, figure or temperament, she was the best he had ever seen. He suddenly had a lustful thought. It would be great if he could take advantage of General Esteth at this opportunity. Thinking of this, Seville's eyes also subconsciously revealed a lustful look, but the next moment, Seville's fantasy was immediately shattered. His eye changes were seen by Esteth, and Esteth immediately drew out the long sword from his waist and pierced Seville's right eye. Esteth's attack speed was very fast, so fast that Seville didn't react before Esteth took action. He was the strongest person in this city of Jisai, and a servant who was much stronger than specters, but he was still not good enough in front of Esteth, who had neither an imperial weapon nor a servant. After all, Esteth became a general by relying on his own strength. After obtaining the imperial weapon in the near future, he will become the undisputed strongest of the empire. Severe was stunned for a moment at first. After feeling the unprecedented pain in his right eye, his brain realized what happened. Ming is extremely painful for a person like Seville who lives a life of drinking and sex, and the degree of despair is second only to death, but his death will soon make him even more desperate. At this time, Seville knelt on the ground in pain, covering his eyes with his hands, and his death directly trampled on the back of Seville's head with the heel of her high boots. In an instant, Seville's head was like an exploding watermelon. Seville was motionless in an instant. The guards surrounding Bai Ye and Esteth from all sides were dumbfounded, and some of them couldn't even hold their weapons, and fell to the ground with a clang. "He is my man. If you want to move him, you have to ask me if I agree first," Esteth said coldly. She didn't even look at the corpse under her feet, and her eyes swept over the guards. "Of course, Esteth just said my subordinates as my people." Feeling this cold gaze, all the guards were awakened, and at the same time, they were completely frightened. They dropped their weapons and fled in all directions. The heavy weapons would only slow down their escape speed. Esteth was too lazy to chase so many people, so he let them escape. At this time, Bai Ye was shocked by Esteth's self-willedness again. Even the governor-level figures could be killed at will. Obviously he was just a stranger she just met, and Esteth could have sold him. He felt that Esteth should not be doing this for him, but Seville's slightly commanding tone made Esteth feel uncomfortable, especially the obscene eyes that really angered Esteth. Now that the governor is dead, there will be no one to manage this city of Jisai. At this time, Bai Ye walked towards Esteth. "It doesn't matter. The imperial capital will naturally send someone to inherit the position of governor," Esteth said casually. "But is it okay for you to kill this governor? This was originally caused by me, so it's fine for me to handle it alone." Bai Ye couldn't help but say. "It's okay, whoever causes trouble for me will be killed without hesitation." Esteth's tone seemed to be talking about a trivial matter. "And you are my man, so this matter is naturally related to me." Chapter 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Don't say something that can easily lead to misunderstandings. Bai Ye said in a slightly speechless voice. He could tell that Esteth definitely didn't mean that, so he didn't think much about it. "This guy has a pretty good servant on him, you can use it first." At this time, Esteth used the long sword in his hand to pick up a pair of crossed scabbards on Seville's back, and then threw it back to Bai Ye. Bai Ye took the cross-fixed scabbards, and it was obvious that there were two swords. "Are these two weapons both servants?" Bai Ye couldn't help asking. "Yes, to be precise, they belong to the same servant, because the name of this servant is Two-Sword Flow." Esteth said, "Isn't your imperial weapon only defensive? This servant can just make up for your lethality." Although it is called Two-Sword Flow, in this kind of Japanese comics, swords and swords are inseparable, so the double swords can also be called Two-Sword Flow. "I see." Bai Ye nodded slightly. He was indeed in need of a handy weapon, but he preferred swords to sledgehammers, so he had not taken a fancy to the servant of Sakusu. As for the fact that Esteth mistook his double godly powers for an imperial weapon, he did not intend to deny it. It would be best if he could fool her like this anyway. He neither admitted nor denied it. It was all Esteth's wishful thinking. At this time, Bai Ye fixed the cross scabbard on his back, and then took out the two swords with a little curiosity. These were the black and white swords, the black sword in the left hand and the white sword in the right hand, and they were twin swords of exactly the same shape, only the colors were different. The texture in the hand was completely different from the ordinary long sword just taken from a guard. The feel and texture were much stronger. The special ability of this servant was probably reflected in the name, that is, two-sword flow, which can use two swords at the same time. From the perspective of the imperial equipment, a person can only use one imperial equipment at most. This is the iron rule of the imperial equipment. Otherwise, it will be overloaded and endanger life. At this time, Death also explained to Bai Ye, although the subordinate equipment is not as exaggerated as the imperial equipment, generally only one subordinate equipment is allowed to be owned by one person. The two-sword style subordinate equipment is also very special. After all, both swords belong to the subordinate equipment, but the load on the body is the same as other single subordinate equipment. Although there is no other special ability except being able to use two swords at the same time, the basic panel of this subordinate equipment is relatively strong, and its lethality and hardness are stronger than ordinary subordinate equipment. By the way, if you use an imperial equipment and a subordinate equipment at the same time, will your body be overloaded? If you feel uncomfortable, just throw them away. Finally, Death did not forget to worry about Bai Ye's physical condition. Almost no one would equip an imperial equipment and a subordinate equipment at the same time, because it is difficult for the body to bear it. It's okay, at least for now. Bai Ye said, his Mangekyō Sharingan is not an imperial weapon, but it must be said that the weapon is indeed extraordinary. He can clearly feel the burden on his body when using this weapon. However, his current physical fitness is much stronger than that of ordinary people, so this burden is not a big deal for him. When his physical fitness gets stronger, he won't have to care about this burden at all. That's fine. Then, Death took away the hammer-like weapon of Sakusu. Of course, she didn't use it for herself. With her personality, she didn't like this weapon. Instead, she took it back to the imperial capital to hand it in. Things like weapons can't just fall into the hands of ordinary people. Then Bai Ye and Death continued to ride their horses to the imperial capital. Shortly after they left, the news of the governor's murder quickly spread throughout the city of Jisai. I heard that the governor was killed on the street. Is this true? Of course it's true. His son Sykes was killed first, and then he wanted to take revenge but was also killed. And I heard that the one who killed the governor was General Death in the imperial capital. It's true that the governor was killed by General Death, but the one who killed Sykes was a young man. It is rumored that the young man was General Death's lover. General Death? How could a general from the imperial capital appear here? Maybe he is a good general who hates evil. With what Seville and Sykes did, they should have been killed 1,000 times. General Death and the young man really avenged us. That with the distance between Jisai city and the imperial capital, it is inevitable that there will be many dangerous species. However, after Bai Ye has the minister tool, the efficiency of hunting dangerous species is much higher. These two black and white swords are extremely sharp, and there is no need to worry about the loss of durability. After killing several dangerous species, there is no loss at all. At this time, Bai Ye used the black sword in his left hand to cut off the head of the last snake-shaped dangerous species, and immediately used the white sword in his right hand to finish the knife and destroyed the brain inside. In his cognition, snakes will not die easily after being beheaded, so he thinks that the snake-shaped dangerous species is likely to be the same. Sure enough, until Bai Ye completed the finishing knife, the system prompt sound came in his mind, ding. The host hunted a secondary dangerous species and received a reward, 5 system points. I hunted 6 this time, and you hunted 5 dangerous species. It's a narrow victory. Death slightly lowered the military cap that had just been slightly tilted due to the battle. She felt that after returning to the imperial capital this time, it was almost time to choose a suitable imperial weapon. Otherwise, facing a real strong enemy is still stressful, such as the super dangerous species is still invincible to her now. The imperial equipment can bring about a real qualitative change in her strength. The current ministers in the imperial capital are in charge of many imperial equipment, and every newly appointed general has the opportunity to freely choose an imperial equipment. Death, who has a deep concept of the law of the jungle, will definitely not miss the opportunity to choose an imperial equipment. She is not interested in the ministerial equipment because she only cares about the divine equipment. But she has just been promoted to general and has not had time to find the ministers to choose the imperial equipment. No, I never said I want to compete with you in this. Bai Ye couldn't help but complain. Maybe it was because he showed a strong desire to compete in order to grab the head. After all, hunting these dangerous species can earn him system points. As a result, it also inadvertently stimulated Estetha's desire to compete.